Hello everyone, my name is Adam and I love movies. I grew up in the 80s and 90s and the nostalgia of those times will always stick with me. But sometimes nostalgia can cloud your vision of things. So come with me as I go through the movies I swear all my life I've loved, and let's see if I can still see the magic that I once did. This is Adam's Retro Rewatch.
In 2040, the revolutionary starship the Event Horizon disappeared on its inaugural voyage to Proxima Centauri using the ship's untested gravity drive. 7 years later, a distress signal from the Event Horizon was found in decaying orbit of Neptune. The Lewis and Clark, a rescue ship, was dispatched to investigate the signal. This was their story.
Hey there, Space Fellows? Hi there. Hey, buckaroos. No, that's not right at all. That's horrible. Hey everybody, Adam here, and welcome back to another Retro Rewatch. This time, I'm going to cover a movie that I've been wanting to do for a while, but I kind of put it on the back burner because it's late 90s and I wanted to do some more 80s stuff, so it just sat there. And, well, I mean, I've been doing some 90s stuff, so let's put the 80s on back burner. But not all the 80s. In fact, speaking of the 80s, that's a good segue into my sponsor video, so roll it.
Now, when we fought, you had that eye of the tiger, man, the edge.
Hey everybody, my name is Adam and I am part of the Cinemadness podcast. I'm here to tell you about some exciting news. We're making a movie. As I've mentioned on the show numerous times, I am obsessed with the films of 1982, and I want to share my love of those years with all of you. So we are taking a deep dive into 75 movies, all from 1982, to show that this was an important year, or maybe the most important year in pop culture cinema. Movies like Blade Runner, The Thing, E.T., Poltergeist, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and many, many more. Interviewing cast and crew from these movies, as well as fans and also film experts. We are currently crowdfunding for equipment and logistics while in development, and when we are ready for pre-production, we will get all of you involved too. That means names in the credits, special goodies, perhaps posters and art. So, if you are as excited about this as we are, and really, why shouldn't you be? Check out our campaign at cinemadnesspodcast.com/1982themovie. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at 1982themovie. So come along with us and let's celebrate cinema. Okay, let's get into this. Let's take the Wayback Machine back to the year of 1997 and join me as we revisit the space sci-fi horror movie Event Horizon. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who went on after this movie to do a long career of making Resident Evil movies. Love them or hate them, there's 7 of them. And they exist, so there you go. But anyway, this came off while he was enjoying his success from his cheesy video game adaptation movie of Mortal Kombat.
Get over here!
Anderson gave us this new haunted house in space movie starring Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, Kathleen Quinlan from The Doors, and Jason Isaacs from Harry Potter fame nowadays.
Now, Draco, play nicely. Mr. Potter.
The story is mainly based around Sam Neill's character, Dr. Weir, as he was the engineer that designed the gravity drive for the fabled missing ship, the Event Horizon. The gravity drive was supposed to generate enough energy to make a an artificial black hole to essentially fold space, which is a Dune reference from Frank Herbert's Dune. And folding space would allow it to transport from one part of the universe to another instantaneously. But on its maiden voyage, the gravity drive did its thing and took the ship somewhere else for 7 years. Dr. Weir joins the crew of the Lewis and Clark, a ship helmed by Lawrence Fishburne's Captain Miller, to check out the distress signal that seems to be coming from the Event Horizon itself. They get this last transmission from the ship, which is just a garbled mess of screaming and Latin.
The TDRS did receive this single transmission.
The fucking hell is that?
Which the ship's doctor, played by Jason Isaacs, translates to Liberate me, or save me.
Liberate me. Something, I can't make out the rest.
Liberate me.
Save me.
When they get to the distress signal, they find it out it's in a decaying orbit of Neptune, which means it's kind of falling into its atmosphere. Which makes it kind of cool, because then it's like in this cloud of thunderstorms. So it adds more to the haunted house aspect of it, where, you know, there's like lightning and thunder and stuff in this spaceship movie. And that's makes it really cool and really authentic for a haunted house movie. But when they get there, they see there are no normal life signs on board. Like, they're all over the place, but there's no tangible life signs that they can find when they scan the ship.
This place is a tomb.
Inside the ship, it is absolutely empty, except for the corpse of the captain with his eyes missing and his skin all sliced up all over his face and everything, lacerations and blah. So we get a peek inside the engineering station where the gravity drive itself lives. And let me tell you, this thing, the room that it's in, and the meat grinder hallway that leads up to it, that just it's got nope written all over it. One of the Clark's crew, played by Jack Noseworthy, Justin, or Baby Bear, he gets sucked into the black hole that the gravity drive manifests out of nowhere for no reason. And it is sent to where the ship was prior to it coming back. And they pull him out through the tether, and he's in a full catatonic state. They have no idea what's wrong with him, but he's eyes wide open, but he cannot move, breathe, react, or anything. Until the ship reacts and breathes and stuff. Yeah, it's a very, very uncomfortable movie in a good way, in a fun good way. Speaking of the ship breathing, it's apparently not sentient, not alive, but the ship is haunted, and it's basically got a mind of its own, and it doesn't like the people being there and messing with it. So what does it do? It begins messing with the crew. And this is where the movie really finds its footing. The ship basically is, like I said, it's not alive, but it is alive. It's more like the gravity drive is alive and trying to emulate the kind of hell realm the ship went to before. And it uses the crew's fears and insecurities to give them visions and dreams and things to make them uneasy and, in essence, kill them. Or at least wear them down enough for them to stay on board to, feed on them. That part's kind of vague. Sam Neill tries to explain it at the end when he's when he's possessed. Spoiler alert, if you're watching this, you know I'm going to be talking about these movies. Yeah, he gets possessed by the ship, or by the essence that took over the ship. And he tries to explain, like, you can't leave, she won't let you, the ship won't let you leave, and that kind of stuff. So it's that kind of thing. It's it's very hard to explain, because as I've been told, that the script was hard to understand by the actors, and it was hard to complete. It was a hard to complete story, and we'll get into that later. But a lot of the vague stuff really doesn't matter, because the horror and the acting is so authentic that it's impactful, that you don't care. You don't care about the movie's shortcomings, and it's one of the cool things about it. And it sticks by the formulaic act structure of beginning, middle, and end. It's a lot of story-bending twists in it. It's got some cool ideas to it. It just takes you on a cinematic roller coaster. And when I was a teenager / young adult, I was fine with the simplicity of the storytelling. So the question remains, do I still find it fine and have a good time? Do I still love this movie? Do I still love Event Horizon? You're goddamn right I do. Let me tell you, Event Horizon is one hell of a ride. Eh? See what I did there? Hell. Yeah. Hell of a ride. No, we're keeping that. We're keeping that in. Like I said before, it is a roller coaster. It has its highs, it has its dips, it has its twists and turns, and leaves you wanting to do it again. When I saw it in the theater, I was 17, maybe 18. I don't remember like when I could have looked up when the month was. I would have been like, there it is. But I remember the whole theater just having the best time, gasping and jumping and laughing and clapping. This movie is just pure entertainment, and it's pure 90s horror in the same vein as like the House on Haunted Hill remake. It was also a fun horror experience. But there's more to Event Horizon than just the fun horror elements. There's also the scary horror elements. The timing of the jump scares were super well chosen. The gore wasn't gratuitous, but it was definitely effective. The makeup effects were impressive. I've noticed it's really hard in horror movies to find the right balance of doing slashes and like chunks taking out of skin, and where it looks realistic and not like makeup. Like if you look at Freddy Krueger, he doesn't look burnt. He just looks stretched until you get to the remake. Which one thing they did really well on that movie was the makeup effects on Jackie Earle Haley's Freddy Krueger. If you look really close at him, he looks like a real burn victim. And they did a good job of doing the makeup effects in this movie with the cuts and lacerations and the gore and stuff. And you feel the feeling of dread as this crew who didn't even want to be there in the first place. They complained the whole way there. Why are we going here? It's just a distress signal. It's bunk. It's ridiculous. It's impossible. They did not want to be there. And they are just stuck on the ship that's toying with them. And you just want them to get away. And most of them don't. It's effective. Everything about this movie, I mean, that should be the blurb at the bottom of the poster, you know. Event Horizon, and it's effective. I'd go see it. And speaking of the cast, the ship itself is a major player in this movie. It's also effective. I found out recently it has the same exterior and interior blueprints of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Aside from the wings, the ends of the wings are these long pillars. They're just turned horizontal from the pillars on the Notre Dame Cathedral. But if you look, you've got this Gothic element in space. And if you pay careful attention, all the rooms and doorways and even windows are arched. There aren't any 90-degree angled rooms in the event horizon. They all have these arches, and even some of the windows, when they're like fogged over, they have this stained glass look to them. It's very Gothic, very, very cathedral-like, very religiously toned for the ship that has gone to hell. And that really adds to the idea of this ship going to a hell dimension. Which makes it, let me hear you, effective. I can't hear you. This is a recorded video. I want to talk about the hell aspect of this movie. Holy crap. You want to talk about disturbing. This was like a photo shoot done by Clive Barker with a huge budget. From the first audio log to the short video clip to Sam Neill's forced visions upon Lawrence Fishburne's character of the crew's new eternal torture. It would be internal as well. There's things going in bodies and stuff. It's really disturbing. It's really gross. It's really graphic. It's really fast, and I think that's what makes it even more disturbing. That it's just fast cuts. It's uncomfortable. It's screaming, and it's out of nowhere. And you're just sitting there after each time a scene like that happens. You're like, what? Especially the first time, we're like, well, this is the last recording we got from the event horizon. Yeah, it's... Oh, man. I'll tell you what. I am a huge, huge Hellraiser fan, including the straight-to-DVD ones. Not so much the Dimension ones where they just tried to keep the license and not even have Doug Bradley come back. I mean, they're okay. They're not as bad as people say they are. It's just... You can't have Pinhead without Doug. Anyway. They did a better job of making a Hellraiser in space movie with Event Horizon than the actual Hellraiser in space movie that they made a couple years earlier. And that is me as an unapologetic fan of all the Hellraiser movies. So that's an accolade towards Event Horizon. And there was a lot of Hellraiser parallels. You have Sam Neill playing the Pinhead-like character at the end, wanting to bring people who mess around with this portal device. The Event Horizon's gravity drive is kind of like the cube, and he wants to bring them to this place of suffering because they chose that. Not as much as like in Hellraiser, where they intentionally solve the cube and open the box and out they came, but it still has a lot of parallels to that. And it kind of ends the same way, with the ship going back on itself. And it also helps that I am a complete sucker for space horror movies. There's not a lot, so it's very meticulous that they paid attention to some of the classic stuff that they did. In fact, they got one of the set dressers from Alien to help. So there's a lot of parallels to some classic space horror movies. The ragtag crew of the Clark is very reminiscent of the Nostromo crew in Alien. The elongated derelict ship at the mercy of itself gave off 2001 vibes. Even though 2001 technically isn't a horror movie, HAL 9000 was definitely a horror villain. Even the long oval circular hallway in the middle of the ship, it almost looks like a catwalk, can be looked at as a nod to either the hallways in Saturn III or even Disney's The Black Hole. It changed the green to red, and you kind of got this black hole look to it. But even these nods are just nods. There's no theft taken. It's not like they went, oh, well, then we're going to have this creature on board, or the computer is going to attack us, or that kind of thing. No, it's a very original movie. It's Hellraiser in space, without taking from Hellraiser and without taking from space movies. It's its own movie, and it's freaking fantastic. It just hits on every mark. That said, there are a couple things in this recent viewing that I have critiques about. Some of the CGI effects, which were still kind of new, and it shows because they don't hold up well. When they get to the Event Horizon and it's not powered, there's no gravity, things are floating in space, and the things floating were full CGI, and they don't look very good. They still have that CGI shine to them, like they haven't figured out how to key them in completely right, and that happened a lot in the 90s and into the early 2000s. A lot of creature effects and stuff, and I don't hold it against the movie. They just things weren't. It wasn't a regular thing then. So the CGI in that scene alone does not hold up. Like the floating items and the coolant balls, they just weren't believable. But not to the point where you're like, well, this movie is done. To me, it's not a big deal, so.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Also, the comic relief guy, he's your rescue guy, played by the super talented Richard T. Jones. He just was not written well, and I've heard reports that he improvised his lines, and maybe that helped. Maybe his normal lines weren't bombastic enough, but something about his always having to be the funny guy just felt off to me. And I understand, you absolutely have to have some kind of levity in a horror movie. You need those small bits of relief to keep you enjoying the ride. Even roller coasters have that. Going back to the roller coaster analogy, the dips and they go back up. And you sit there for a bit, and then you go down again. So, yeah. But his character got to the point this time watching it of me just going, really? You're saying that now? And I'm saying this out loud. I'm like, really? But kudos for the movie not killing him off in the beginning. Or at all. Maybe. And that brings me to the final issue I have with this movie. The ending. Now, quick story. One you won't find on our new segment, Real Stories from the Aisles. Available now on our own Cinemadness podcast channel. This story goes back to when I was doing coverage of conventions, doing press and stuff for another network. I was in New Orleans, and I had the opportunity to talk to Jason Isaacs. He was a guest at this convention, and he was constantly having to sign Harry Potter stuff and taking pictures with Harry Potter fans. And during a lull, I approached him and told him he was great in one of my favorite movies of all times. And I saw his eyes roll back as he smiled very cheekily and was like, oh yeah? I said, yeah, man, I love Event Horizon. And the loss of his tension and disdain physically just left his body. And he said, "Oh, thank God, I'm so fucking tired of talking about Harry Potter." And we both laughed. And then he went on a break, and we got to talking. And he told me all these stories about how fun it was to work with Lawrence Fishburne and how intimidated he was by him at first. And he broke the tension by calling him Florence Fishburne, and it caught on. And oddly enough, I didn't know this, but on set, on all of his movies, everyone calls Lawrence Fishburne Fish. I think it's weird because I did this whole thing on the Matrix and didn't even know that. Or did I? I don't think I did. I think I just found that out. But he also told me that he was frustrated about how they ended the movie, because apparently they shot a bunch of endings. They just didn't know how to end the movie. And he liked other endings that they didn't shoot. He didn't go in detail about these endings, but that was the one thing he just did not like about the movie. He loved the cast. He loved working with Anderson again. He worked on him with him on his first movie, Shopping, and I think he's appeared in a lot of Paul W.S. Anderson movies, at least in the background, maybe like an uncredited extra or something. It's kind of like the Matthew Lillard in Screamverse of Paul W.S. Anderson movies. He told me that he shot like 9 different endings, and neither Anderson or the studio had any idea which one to use. I don't know. I got to talk to him about Event Horizon, and it's just a fun little story that I like to tell. So, but knowing that, I really have an issue with the ending. And it's the, "Oh, we're safe now, then bad thing happens." And then realizing the bad thing was a dream due to trauma of the event. But was it? Ending. It's used a lot. And it's fine. But I would love to have seen the alternates. Like, if they were still out there, I would love to see these other endings that they came up with, because I imagine they were just bonkers off the wall. I would love to see a full cut of the endings. And maybe like a Clue style choose your own ending type thing. That would be fun. And that's Event Horizon, a brilliant take on a haunted house movie, but in space. The acting, the story, the timing of the scares were dead on. The spiritual / quasi-religious element fit in perfectly, and it's definitely a movie I will never stop recommending. And people ask me, what's a great horror movie that I probably haven't seen? I'll be like, have you seen Event Horizon? And I'll send them on their way. Oh, and the music. Oh, the score is dreary, yet still retains that Anderson, I don't want to say action-y, but yeah, action sound to it. The score is amazing. And the theme by The Prodigy, as their album Fat of the Land was huge at the time, was just great. And it also fit in. Strangely enough, it like had this orchestral sound to it, and then goes right into this just electronic techno theme song, and it's great. And it's just like Event Horizon. The score itself is a roller coaster. It's effective. In fact, I have a message out there. The ship and the sets alone were absolutely a marvel to look at. And you already feel like you're part of it. So, Universal Studios Orlando, I'm looking at you as I look around. I'm the captain now. There needs to be a house at Halloween Horror Nights for Event Horizon. It's been way too long. You did The Thing. You did Alien. Now do Event Horizon. I implore you. Please. Please. Let's start a campaign to get this happening. So if you're in the mood for something scary, but also an enjoyable ride, I highly recommend Event Horizon. Am I wrong? Is this a favorite of yours? What's your favorite part? let me know. Let me know in the comments what you think of Event Horizon. I would love to hear everybody's take on this movie. And thank you so much for joining me on another retro rewatch. And if you like this, or any of the other videos that we do, or any of the videos, any other of the retro rewatches that you see, we'd love it if you hit the like and subscribe button, where you don't miss out on any of our videos coming up. And also, it also plays with the YouTube algorithm. It shows that we exist, shows up faster on searches, and that's always a good thing, right? I mean, it's good for everyone. Also, if you enjoy hearing people talk about their love of the art of cinema, and just talking movies, and more movies, and more movies, and more movies ad nauseum, make sure you check out our show, the Cinemadness Podcast, streaming pretty much everywhere streaming podcasts can be found, especially now that we're on Amazon and Audible. We're really easy to find. Also, right here on YouTube, all of our shows this season are on YouTube as soon as they go out on the stream, on the audio stream. So that's great. So thanks again for watching, and remember, always celebrate cinema, even in space.